I'd like to welcome Nigel Hart to
Hello.
this podcast. Hello, Nigel.
How are we doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. Now, Nigel, we met a few months ago at Focus Wales,
Yeah,
and you were there with one of your acts because you manage artists as well as
yeah,
being a musician, don't you? And I thought it would be quite nice to sort of catch up with you and have a chat and sort of take you back to the beginning where it all began, because there
sure.
are artists out there who obviously it's just very daunting, isn't it? This
Very much.
position of going into this huge world of music and not knowing in what direction to take.
Yeah,
So I thought it'd be great to catch up with you. You started as a musician and then went into management.
yep, that's
So
correct.
let's go back then to where it all started for you, because I think it was back in 1982. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, yeah. Out in Nassau, Bahamas.
Yeah, and I
So,
think that was your first gig, wasn't it?
first ever gig, Nassau, Bahamas. Yeah, it wasn't the Dog and Duck or the pub at the end of the road. It was a nightclub in Nassau, Bahamas, which was quite a different way to start one's musical career.
Yeah, amazing. And what a place to start.
Yeah, well, I bumped into a guitar player in London at a gig at the Marquee Club, the old Marquee Club in Wardour Street.
Mm.
And this guy looked very much like he was a musician, a rock star. And after the gig, he was looking around on the floor, and I sort of got chatting to him. And it turned out he was looking for the guitar player's pick as a
All right.
souvenir. And I said, "Oh, do you play?" And this guy says, "Yeah, actually, I'm a guitar player. I'm from the Bahamas. I'm looking for a band in London." And he and I just got working together, and we were writing stuff. But then it was a little bit complicated because he was going to college in the States the following year.
Mm.
And he said, "Look, I'm really sorry, all the work we've done, it's going to come to an end. There's no end product. But as a thank you for everything, we've worked on, I could get you out to the Bahamas to play some shows." And
Mm.
I was like, "Well, I've never played any shows in London. And here
Yeah,
I am being offered the chance to go out to Nassau and play some shows out there."
that's
So
amazing.
I was out there for like 4 or 5 weeks, and we played a string of shows out there. And they were quite high profile shows. He knew a lot of people back in Nassau, which I didn't realize at the
Yeah.
time. And he said to me, "No pressure. If the rehearsals don't work out, don't worry. Just enjoy a nice holiday." And the first day I was there, this guy came up to me and tapped me on the shoulder, and he says, "Hey, are you Nigel?" I said, "Yeah, I am. Who are you?" He goes, "Oh, my name's Chad. They've flown me in from Miami. I just got off the Commodore's tour, and I'm doing your sound tomorrow night." And I was like, "Whoa,
Oh
I
my
didn't expect that."
goodness.
And I was straight in at the
Amazing.
deep end. So straight away the next night, I played my first show, and
God.
it was at a private party along the coast, and it was an open air gig, and it was memorable for the fact that we actually got stopped by the police during our last song because they had complaints from 12 miles up the coast. The noise, because the noise at night travels a lot
Yeah,
further than
yeah.
during the day. And these police cars suddenly came onto the property we were playing, and the police got out and stopped us. And I always remember I was the last person to realize that we'd been stopped. I remember the drums cutting out and thinking, "Oh, there must be a technical issue." And I was posing away with my foot up on the old monitor with my bass and posing away. And then the next thing I know, I get a tap on the shoulder, and this guy's got a gun there, and he's going, "You better stop."
Oh
And I was like,
my gosh.
"Whoa, yeah, 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 I'm stopping." And of course, the kids loved it because they thought, "Wow, these guys have been stopped by the police."
Yeah.
Word got around the island. Everybody wanted to come and see the band that was stopped by the police.
God,
So our popularity just rocketed after that. And we had a
amazing.
good time. And I went back in 83, in 84, and that was my grounding really for my musician sort of probation period.
Mm.
But what a way to start.
What a way to start.
What
Gosh.
a way to
The
start.
Bahamas of all places, how
Yeah.
gorgeous is
Not
that? And
not
of course,
bad, huh?
you
Not bad.
you continued to go back, haven't you, to
Oh yeah, I continue to go back. A guy is one of my best friends. I was at his 60th birthday last November out in Nassau, and he comes over here, and he's now running the biggest real estate company in the Bahamas.
wow.
His grandfather started back in the 20s.
Mm.
So
Gosh.
yeah, an
That-
incredible friendship and incredible musical journey that kicked off back in Nassau.
That's amazing. So, of course, in 1988, you formed another band, didn't you, called Bang. How do you
Amber
pronounce it?
Gambler, Amber Gambler. You see,
Amber
it's
Gambler.
very difficult to pronounce. The way it's written, it was taken sort of, I guess we kind of nicked it from Kajagoogoo. It was kind of Amber Gambler.
Mm.
And an Amber Gambler was somebody who jumps traffic lights. So
Oh, right.
the
Okay.
Amber Gambler, you see where we're coming from?
I do actually, and
And
I wouldn't have connected the two with traffic lights at all.
yeah. So that's where the name came from. And we were a very kind of rock poppy band in the style of kind of Hart to POUK, that sort of thing.
Mm,
We had a female singer,
mm,
and we wrote a lot of songs. We demoed some songs. And then it was funny because we were looking for a keyboard player, and we had a call from someone who said he was representing Johnny Fingers from the Boomtown Rats.
yeah.
And I said, "Oh, does he want to be our keyboard player?" And they said, "Well, actually, we've heard some of your stuff, and he wants you to be his backing band."
Oh my
We were
goodness.
like, whoa, but we were so full of ourselves at the time that we said, well, actually, we're looking for a keyboard player. We don't want to be someone else's backing band. But the guy who managed him was his brother, who also had connections with the Boomtown Rats. He was managing the Boomtown Rats.
Oh
He took
gosh.
us on board and shopped the demo tape around, which was really nice of him. And unfortunately, just at the point where we were getting a lot of interest from America and from CBS, outside issues with the band, relationship issues with, partners, all came to a head at the same time.
Mm,
The band kind of drifted apart, and we never reconvened after that, which was a real shame because we had a lot of potential.
yeah.
We played some shows. We sold out a couple of shows in North London where we broke the attendance records, which was really good. Uh,
Mm.
but we never took it to the next stage. And I think we were on the verge of doing something really, really successful at the time.
Yeah, because I mean, a DJ recently in Spain has been playing the EP
Yeah,
tracks, hasn't he?
yeah, amazing.
And of
Yeah,
course, I mean, this is the first time they've been played in what, 36 years or
36
something?
years. Yeah,
My
36
gosh,
years. And
that's amazing.
I just found out this week that another DJ has heard the record, and they do a global hospital radio station, and they're playing it next Tuesday. So
Wow.
one of the tracks off the EP. So after all this time, they say never. And
Well, I mean, you could end up releasing some music from that.
yeah, quite
In the
easily. So we'll see. We'll see how that develops.
Yeah, sounds really exciting. So, of course, if we're bringing us back now to in 90s, 2000s, you had various involvement with various bands.
Yeah.
However, you sort of went on more to more production. Is that correct?
Well, I sort of got into management through some friends who were all ex-members of various rock bands.
Yeah,
And some of them been in UFO, some of them been in the Michael Schenker group. Some of them had worked, throughout the music business, they'd had various degrees of success with big bands.
yeah,
And they were almost like a small super group, I guess you'd call them.
yeah.
And because they'd had so many bad experiences with management, they were looking for someone to take on board as to represent them. And at the time, I'd only had experience as a musician.
Mm.
So I said, well, if you need somebody, who were you thinking? And one time they called me out and said, we'd like to meet you for a drink, but it was all sounding very formal. I thought, this is weird. And when I actually got to the meeting, they all sat there looking at me kind of sheepishly and said, we're talking about a manager, Nige. How do you fancy doing it? And I
Oh
was
my
like,
goodness.
whoa. So I picked up the mantle from there, from a clean sheet point of view, and represented them, got them gigs, got them festivals out in Europe, Germany, Spain. We did some shows with Status Quo in Germany, which were
Wow.
really massive shows.
Yeah, gosh.
And we released an album. They changed their name to House of X, which was then they released their own album with their own stuff on it. And it was good fun. It was really good fun. We got to tour Europe and to play some really great places. And then I developed the management thing from there, really.
Yeah. And of course, didn't you play on the Le Mans race circus as well?
Yes, yes, going way
Oh
back.
my
That's going,
gosh.
yeah, that's going back to when I was actually doing the music stuff, and
Yeah.
I got a band together. Well, some friends of mine owned. They used to go to the Le Mans 24-hour race every year, and one year they decided that they'd been going so often, so they decided to buy a plot of land in the middle of the racetrack. And I said, well, this is crazy. How are you going to get any sleep? They said, well, we don't sleep. We just go out there and we party. But the one thing we've always missed is live music. So they said, why don't we get a flatbed truck and take the band? This was another band I was playing with. We just got a group of musicians together and we took a flatbed truck out to the Bahamas with to Le Mans with a generator on the back. And we used to just play gigs either around the track or in the neighboring bars, a place called Arnage, which is very close by. And we used to play for free, and people used to put money in buckets. And then we would literally get stopped by the gendarmes because the street would be full of people dancing and singing and all this stuff. And every time, the good thing is when we were stopped, all we had to do was lift the mic stands onto the truck, and literally everything was on the truck. So the amps, the back line, everything else. And we'd just drive to the next bar, say, would you like us to attract a load of people to your bar? We start playing again, then we would just do that throughout the night. And we, of course, were getting complimentary drinks, complimentary food to keep us going. And people were putting money in the buckets as well, which was
Sounds
great.
amazing. Sounds
So it was
amazing.
a win-win situation, really.
Yeah. And of course, you carried on with that charity work, didn't you? You
Yeah,
carried on with that.
yeah, I've always said, well, we're not going to I'm not in a position where I'm going to have major success myself, but I want to be able to help other people. And one thing that was really important to me was, understanding the power of music and giving something back, making a difference through music, I think is what I would basically say I was looking at.
Yeah, yeah.
And I got access to a venue in St. John's Wood, which was just around the corner from Abbey Road. I said, well, look, I've got a venue. We hire a PA, we get the band up on stage, and we just invite people along, free shows, and we ask them to bring their own booze, which was always a plus because once people have had a few bottles of wine, it's amazing how quickly they go to their wallets and they
Oh yeah, they donate.
right?
Yes, absolutely.
So we would do these free gigs in St. John's Wood, which we did for about 4 or 5 years before COVID. And we managed to raise a lot of money for charity. We raised, I think, around £26,000 for brain tumor research and about £9,000 for Dementia UK. We did some Bobby Moore charity stuff for the Cancer Trust. And we did, lots and lots of good work.
Yeah.
I supported a children's hospice from 2006 as well. And we were doing some charity fundraising for them. And it's something that had payback without necessarily, benefiting us directly, but indirectly benefiting someone else. And I thought that was very important.
And it makes you feel better, doesn't it? I think when you're helping someone.
Yeah.
When you put in your knowledge and your talent into something that can help to, enrich somebody's lives, whether it is through charity, it really does make a difference, doesn't it? And I think, that is important.
And that's the power of music. That's the power of music. Music can do that. We've seen it on a major scale with things like Live Aid. And for the first time, someone was monetizing music for a good reason and not just to make fat cats fatter, but to actually give something to people who needed it.
Yeah.
And in a small way, I guess I was like the nephew of Bob Geldof almost. It was like I wanted to raise money and I wanted to do something positive.
Yeah.
And that was a channel I chose to use, which was great.
Yeah. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And of course, you've gone into management more so now, although you do have your own band.
Yeah, I do. I've been running with the POUK HILL PROPHETZ now for about 10 years. And we're basically a very fun glam rock tribute kind of thing. But we have played some fairly prestigious gigs. We've been to the south of France, we've been to Scotland, we've been to Wales, we've played open air gigs in Wales. And wherever we play, we kind of make our gigs that we don't tour very often, but we play gigs which we kind of make into events, and we get people to come from various places to come and see us.
Mm.
They like to travel to see us. We have a gig coming up at the Water Rats on the 7th of September, in fact.
Yeah.
And I know that there are at least 2 people coming over from the States,
Wow.
2 people from Germany. We've got a DJ coming over from Spain. We've got people traveling down from Scotland, up from Cornwall, down from Birmingham, down from Leeds. And we're expecting a full house. And people just have a good time. It's good time music. You know, a lot of that music from the glam period is often overlooked.
I love that period. I just loved it. That was
fun.
my era.
You know,
yeah.
It came from it was very much mirroring where we are now. It was a deep depression in the country. People were, you know, power cuts, you had strikes going on. And then, but every Thursday you turned on your TV and Noddy Holder was up there.
Oh, yes.
Only Sweet, T-Rex.
Yeah.
And it kind of lifted people out of the doom and gloom. And that's what we tend to do with what we do. We put on a show. It's very in your face, but it's fun. It's an audience participation kind of thing.
Yeah,
You know, it's very much for the people, by the people. We look at ourselves. The people that come and see us were people that were going to the gigs back in the day and coming along to the shows when we were going to see these bands that we loved. And so we kind of try and follow that on and celebrate the music, really, which is really good.
Yeah, it's brilliant, actually, because I mean, that was a great era, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was just amazing. I just loved all the music back then. It was great. And you know, you get a lot of people you know, reliving that, and it's just brilliant, isn't it? I don't think you will ever hear the likes of it again, except for like bands like yourself, you know.
And I think the colour and the importance of putting on a show is so, you know, it's missing from a lot of music these days.
Yeah.
Everything is very generic these days and follows a formula. Whereas back then you had, you know, you could contrast Bowie with Bolan and then Slade with Sweet, and they were all doing it on their own way and interpreting it their own way. And from the glam thing, I think from the glam thing, you got your new wave, you got your new romantics. It all kind of harked back. If you listen to any of those guys now, you listen to the Duran guys, they always cross refer T-Rex and all that stuff, and Bowie, because they were all influenced by it. So it went on to influence a lot of musicians that came afterwards as well. So it was a very integral part of our musical history.
Oh no, I totally agree.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, your band is going out there and reliving that and letting everyone else relive that era, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So, you know, that, I mean, that gig's going to be amazing. So that's the 7th of September.
7th of September, yeah. So there's still some tickets available if you want to come down, people.
Oh, I'll definitely be putting the link in for your tickets on this YouTube bar, definitely. Now, going back to the charity work, Nigel, I know that you actually were invited to the House of Commons.
Yes, I was, yeah.
In recognition for that charity work. Tell me a little bit about that.
That was, is it Stephen Burkov who was the Speaker of the House, invited some people down in recognition of various charities. And I was invited down in recognition for the work I'd done and the money I'd raised. I wasn't expecting it. It came out the blue. And it was very nice to go down there and actually be officially recognised for what I'd done. Obviously, you don't do it for those reasons, but it was a nice gesture.
Absolutely.
And, I went down and there were lots of other people there from various other charities. And it was nice being in a room full of like-minded people who were all givers, who wanted to give something back.
Yeah.
And it was very inspirational, and to talk about their journeys and how they got their charities off the ground and things like that. And I've always warmed to people that, you know, that look out for others and are, you know, able to do something positive for others.
No, I think it's really important, isn't it? I mean, I'm in the process of doing something myself for a lady in Ireland, and it's just so nice to be able to give something, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It's just a lovely way of giving something back.
And especially through music as well, because the thing is, we all, you know, there's a lot of musicians out there, and there's a lot of things that people do for personal challenges, personal preference or whatever. A lot of people do running, they do marathons. And the first thing I ever say to friends that say, oh, I've just run a half marathon, the first words out of my mouth is, who did you run for?
Yeah.
Because to me, it's all very well having a personal goal, but if you can monetize that for someone else,
Yeah.
is even greater if you're actually doing it for a cause rather than just for your own, personal preference. So the first thing I do when people say to me, oh, I've run a marathon or I've rode this or I've swum this, I say, who did you do it for? Because
Yeah.
to me, that's the end game. It's
Yeah.
great to have personal challenges, but if you can turn that around and make it into something beneficial for others,
Mm.
then that's even better, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, the charity that we're doing this for is the Motor Neurons Disease Association.
Yeah.
And unfortunately this young lady who has been, knocked down in a youth really with this, after giving birth to a third child, and
Oh
that
no.
baby's only 3.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Really
So
sad.
it is very, very sad. But we're doing everything we can to raise money for that
Good. That's
charity,
really good.
so which is great. Now, of course, Nigel, you're a big Prince fan, aren't you? I mean,
Absolutely. You got it.
Prince was just
Yeah.
my idol. I
Yeah.
absolutely loved him. And of course, you have been lucky enough to see him in concert on multiple occasions. I think it was,
86
oh
times.
my
Yeah.
goodness.
86 times.
I mean, that is absolutely amazing. And of course, since his passing, you've reached out to people who did he work with these people?
Yeah, they're all members. So there's a group of musicians that are known commonly as the Prince Alumni.
Mm.
And it includes various people that were either in a band with him or worked with him in some capacity. And since he passed away, I wanted to be able to help some of the musicians that were left behind in the wake of his passing and see if I could bring them over to the UK,
Yeah.
get them to do shows so that we kept the music alive.
Yeah.
And even if it was their own music, it was still important, even more so, I think, because they didn't have a vehicle to get their music across, and a
Yeah.
lot of them had solo projects and stuff like that.
Mm.
So I tapped up Ida Nilsson originally, who was Prince's bass player from Third Eye Girl, who did
Wow.
the last tour with him. And I said, look, why don't we try and put some shows on in London? And they were only small shows to start with. But over the course of time, we started to get bigger venues. And each time she came back, we got better gigs. And then I reached out to other musicians that he'd worked with.
Mm.
And then at some points, I even had musicians come over and stay at my house, which was quite a treat for me because you got to
Yeah.
hear all the stories and everything about working with Prince and everything. And it was quite phenomenal. So I think I've worked with about 8 or 9 of the Prince alumni musicians now and bands, and they're still in touch with me. In fact, I took a call last night from somebody in Chicago that wanted me to help them out with something in October. And so, yeah, I've got that connection there now,
Oh,
and
amazing.
are using that. And it's great to be able to work with people that I know had firsthand experience of working with Prince. And we're looking at promoting his music, but promoting their music at the same time and giving them a leg up to
Yeah.
try and get to a bigger audience. And over here, there's still a very, very loyal Prince fan base,
Oh,
which
definitely. Yeah.
which I'm friendly with, and I know a lot of the people in that area. And so, in terms of publicizing the gigs and getting the word out there, I've got a very good reach and a very big footprint in Prince circles that will
Mm.
draw people in and get, people aware of these guys coming over. So yeah, I've worked with quite a few of them, and it's always been a pleasure to work with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I think when I first met you, I think we were in Focus Wales, and we were in a music shop, and we were talking to Adam, who
That's
was
right.
over from the States,
Yeah.
and the conversation was all Prince, wasn't
It
it?
was, yeah, it was really
Huge.
weird. It was really
Yeah.
weird because I'd walked into that vinyl shop, and I just heard him talking to someone else, and he mentioned a guy called Steve Fargnoli. Now,
Yeah.
Steve
Oh.
Fargnoli was one of Prince's original managers. He had 3
Mm.
managers around about the time of Purple Rain,
Mm.
and Steve Fargnoli was one of them. And I thought, oh my Lord, there's an American guy in this vinyl shop talking about a guy called Steve Fargnoli. It must be Prince's manager he's talking about.
Yeah.
And I just my ears pricked up, and I went over and I said, "Excuse me, did you say Steve Fargnoli? Are you talking about Prince's management?" And of course, it all sort of kicked off from there. So that's how we know each other
That's
now.
how we know each other. Amazing, isn't it? The way
So it's
people
amazing how these
connect.
little tentative links and funny little
Yeah.
moments can bring people together,
But
and in the
but
most unexpected way.
absolutely, but strangely, we were connected in another way as well because I think you know an artist that I know in London, and she's an amazing musician. She's a piano player. She's absolutely incredible, you know, which is it's amazing, isn't it, how music brings people together?
And you tend to find that you know, they say there's 3 degrees of separation or 6 degrees of separation,
Yeah.
and it's so true. You
Mm,
bump into someone and they say, "Oh, and I know so." "Oh, you know so and so." Wow, you know, they're mutual friends or whatever.
yeah.
And the world is actually a very small place when you think about it.
It is, it is.
Um,
And shortly before that, I'd actually interviewed Lorna.
yes,
On,
that's right. Yeah,
I'd
that's right.
interviewed Lorna,
Yeah, yeah,
and we have that connection, which is it's really strange, isn't it? The way things happen, it really is.
yeah. And Lorna makes wonderful music. She
Oh,
really
she's
does.
incredible. She's
Yeah,
incredible,
just
and
incredible.
yeah, she is. So tell me more about like the management side that you've gone into now, because obviously we've got people who artists who are just starting out,
Yeah,
and it's so hard for them. I
it
mean,
is.
what would you advise? What would your advice be to somebody who was just starting out on that road? And what would your advice be to a new artist looking for help?
Well, I think it's very important as a from a new artist perspective to make sure that you stay sincere to what you believe in terms of your
Mm,
music, because there seems to be a very vanilla kind of rap that everybody's given these days,
yeah.
and because everyone wants to play safe to a degree, especially the you know anybody that's going to invest money wants
Mm,
to have the next whatever, Ed Sheeran or whatever.
yeah.
But it's very important to stay true to what you believe in, because you hear of so many stories about bands that, you know, went through 5 or 6 refusals before they actually got picked up. And that's because they were determined to stick to their guns and say, well, this is what we do. We don't want to sound like X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important to remain true to what you believe in.
Mm,
Um, and at the same time, don't be fooled by a lot of empty promises, because a lot of bands, when they first start out, are very lured by, you know, a quick contract, a quick, you know, a quick advance and things like that, which are rarer these days, to be honest,
yeah.
because it doesn't always happen like that. But what people don't realize is a lot of those bands in the day, back in the day, got these huge advances,
Mm,
but then they didn't realize that out of the first record that went out, they had to pay all that back.
yeah.
They were going out and spending it on less, you know, lavishing them cars, property, whatever it was, thinking that it was like a freebie, and not paying it back. But I just think that, as I say, that doesn't happen so much now. But what I would advise new bands to do now is just be aware of what you're signing into, what the length of the contract is you're being offered,
Mm,
and seek out, you know, advice from several people before you make a decision.
mm.
Because often, if something sounds too good to be true, the old adage, it probably is too good to be true, is
Yeah.
true, right? So I think people do need to be aware that it's very easy to be lured by something that sounds fantastic, but you've got to look at the small print and make sure you're not tying yourself into something that's going to, you know, wrap you up and, you know, keep you in under someone's contract for years, and you're never going to be able to get out of it or get a decent deal out of it.
Mm,
So I would say don't rush into anything, and make sure you stay true to what you believe in from a creative point of view, because somebody somewhere will love what you do.
mm.
Um, I was working with a band a couple of years ago who have suddenly found success on quite a big scale, and they had a very unusual name. They were called Stay in Nothing, which is a very
Ah,
strange
very
phrase,
strange name.
but they originated from Scandinavia. And so their English was kind of broken English, and it was staying nothing was really a strange name. But they were determined to do things on their good terms, and their music was going to be, this is how our music sounds. And
Mm,
they got a lot of kickbacks And then all of a sudden, recently, I've seen they're now going on a tour of Europe. They've been picked up by a big promoter. And I'm really pleased for them because they stuck to their guns and they're doing really well now. And I think, well, you know, they could have deviated and gone, well, yeah, maybe we need to be a little bit more commercial. Maybe we need to do this. But they stuck to what their principles and everything else.
Yeah.
They've done it on their terms. And I spoke to them last week and they just said, wow, you know, all the advice you gave us originally about keeping our heads and making sure we stuck to our guns, that's what we've done. And we're so pleased. And
Yeah.
I'm so pleased for them as well. It's fantastic
Yeah.
when you see something like that.
Absolutely. I know, I totally agree. Totally agree. But that was some really good advice. Thank you so much, Nigel, for that. And you know what? It's been fantastic talking to you.
And you.
And I wish you all the luck in the world with the group
Thank you.
POUK Hill Prophets. And of course, you've got your gig. I'm going to plug it again. Your
Thank you,
gig
Jannie.
on the 7th of September.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us details of that and how people can get tickets?
Yeah, you can get tickets online from the venue, from the Water Rats. There's a link there. And it would be great to see as many of you as possible for a night of glam tunes and get your sequins out, get your feather boas out, and come down and shake your booty. That's what I say.
It sounds amazing. It sounds amazing. Well, thank you so much, Nigel. It's been fantastic talking to you.
And you.
Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye now.
Bye for now.